My name is Priya, and I would rather be set on fire than have to live through that last week in the Bandra apartment building again. It's only now, looking back, that I understand what really happened. At the time, all I knew was exhaustion. I'd just finished a 12-hour shift at a call center in Malad. 12 hours. Can you even imagine what that does to you? Stuck under harsh fluorescent lights, repeating, "Sir, have you tried restarting your router?" in a fake American accent, while sweat soaked through my uniform because the AC was on the fritz. I was a zombie. So tired that when the overcrowded bus finally spat me out in the alleyway behind my building, I almost fell asleep walking the last few steps to my door. The job was hell, but it paid the bills. And my apartment, well, it was a concrete shoebox, but it was my shoebox. My only real problem was the wall. The paper-thin wall that separated my bedroom from apartment 2 by Mr. Ghosh's place. Mr. Ghosh was already there when I moved in 3 years ago. It was a tiny elderly Bengali widower with neatly combed silver hair and a life as quiet as a whisper. People came and went in that building, but Mr. Ghosh was a permanent fixture. He was intensely private. For 3 years, the only glimpses I got into his world came through that wall. I'd hear the sizzle of mustard oil and spices at 7 p.m. sharp, which meant he was making his fish curry. And then there was the music. Not blaring jazz or anything, but soft, melancholic robin. The gentle notes of a sitar and tabla would drift through the plaster, just loud enough to remind me I wasn't completely alone. Sometimes, we'd pass on the stairs. He'd give me a small nod and a faint smile, murmur, "Namaskar, Betty," and then disappear into his apartment. He was the perfect neighbor, and then his grandson showed up. It was a suffocating Sunday afternoon. In Mumbai. When the air is so thick you feel like you're swimming through soup. I was heading out to grab some milk when I saw him struggling with this enormous suitcase outside Tubi. He looked nothing like Mr. Ghosh. He was tall, wheat fair-skinned, wearing an expensive shirt that was already wrinkled and stained with sweat. He looked completely out of place in our grimy little hallway. I was about to just walk past when he called out, "Excuse me, are you a neighbor? I'm Rohan, Mr. Ghosh's grandson." His voice was smooth, educated. I nodded and told him my name. "Nice to meet you," he said, flashing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm here to take care of my uncle. He's starting to lose his memory. Dementia, you know, forgetting everything, even to eat. So I need to manage his finances, make sure he's safe." Something about it felt wrong. Mr. Ghosh had always seemed perfectly lucid whenever I saw him. But who was I to argue? I just mumbled something like, "Oh, that's good you're here," and hurried on my way. That's when everything changed. The music stopped. No more sitar drifting through the wall at night. The smell of fish curry disappeared. At first, honestly, it was a relief. Finally, absolute silence. But that silence quickly became heavy, suffocating. And something else replaced the music. Strange sounds. It started about a week after Rohan moved in. It was around 2 a.m. and I'd just managed to drift off after my night shift when this high-pitched, thin, steady whine woke me up. It sounded like a dentist's drill or some kind of small electric tool. It went on for an hour, then stopped. The next night, it came back, but this time it brought a sharp, chemical smell with it, seeping through the cracks in the wall. It was like vinegar, but stronger, with this sickly sweet, almost rotten undertone. I had to complain. The next morning, I knocked on Tubi's door. Rohan answered, still in silk pajamas, looking groggy and annoyed. "What was that noise last night?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, Priya, I'm so sorry. It's the air purifier. My uncle's place. It has a musty smell, and I'm experimenting with some handmade project taxidermy. Just a little hobby. I'll try to keep it down." Taxidermy. In a tiny Mumbai apartment, it was bizarre. But I was just too tired to argue. I nodded and went back to my room. The whining and the stench continued for 3 more nights. And then, suddenly, it all stopped. Completely. And that's when I started seeing Mr. Gosh again. I got home late, one Friday night. A light drizzle was falling, making the alley smell of wet garbage and damp earth. As primera walk ed up, I glanced up at my window, and I saw him standing in his living room, staring out. But something was wrong. He wasn't moving. Not just standing still, he was motionless. Like us, the streetlights cast strange shadows on his face. But I couldn't make out any expression. I shivered, telling myself he was just lost in thought. I rushed inside, locked my door, and collapsed onto my bed. The next day, when I came back from the market, he was still there. Same position, same spot. Still staring out the window, a cold dread started to creep over me. I looked closer. He was wearing the same beige kurta, and his skin looked waxy, like a candle that was starting to melt. Even from 30 meters away, I could see how it seemed to sag around his neck and jawline. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was catatonia. Maybe Rohan had sedated him for his own good. But the fear didn't go away, it just got worse. One night, I couldn't sleep. The oppressive silence from Tubi was making my skin crawl. I pressed my ear against the shared wall. Nothing. I let out a breath, thinking I was just being paranoid. And then I heard it. A squelching sound, a wet, dragging noise. Like someone pulling a heavy, soaked rug across the floor. It was coming from inside Tubi. I held my breath. The sound stopped, right on the other side of the wall. And then, I heard breathing, gurgling, wheezing breaths. My blood ran cold. I stumbled back from the wall, my heart hammering against my ribs. How could that be? I glanced out my bedroom window, which gave me a partial view into 2B's living room. The statue of Mr. Gosh was still standing at his window. So, who, or what, was breathing just inches away from me through a thin layer of plaster? I couldn't take it anymore. Adrenaline completely washed away my fatigue primer aditono. I had to know if Mr. Gosh was okay. I ran out of my apartment and started banging on 2B's door with both fists. Rohan, open up. Is Mr. Gosh okay? Open the door. The squelching stopped. Silence. Then, I heard heavy, dragging footsteps approaching the door. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Rohan stood there. He was shirtless. His skin was slick with sweat, but not normal sweat. It was thick, and it reeked of that same sickly, sweet chemical smell that had been seeping into my apartment, making me want to gag. P.R.I. ... he wheezed. The way he called me sister sent a shiver down my spine. You startled me. My uncle is sleeping. He's not sleeping, Primera shouted. He's been standing at the window all week. What is going on? A slow, horrifying smile spread across his sweaty face. Ah, he said. You saw that? He stepped back, opening the door wider. You're right. He's not sleeping. And then I saw it. In the dim light of the living room, what I thought was Mr. Gosh was no longer at the window. It was lying in a heap in an armchair, like a pile of discarded clothes. The beige kurta, the waxy hands, the hollowed-out face, with empty eye sockets. It wasn't Mr. Gosham, it was his skin. I turned back to Rohan in absolute horror. He was still smiling, his white teeth stark against his greasy face. It's not perfect yet, he whispered, a sick kind of pride in his voice. The stitching. It's tricky, but the next one will be much better. The next one. My eyes darted towards the kitchen. On the small steel table where Mr. Gosh used to chop his vegetables, there was now a row of gleaming tools. Surgical knives, scissors, needles, and spools of thread, not normal thread. It was transparent, like fishing line, and there was the small electric drill, its tip caked with some kind of dark material. I didn't scream, I couldn't. My throat was clamped shut. I just turned and ran. Rohan laughed behind me, his bare feet slapping on the hallway floor. Wait, Priyadidi, dinner's almost ready. We're neighbors. I slammed my apartment door shut and spun all 3 locks. I was shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone to dial 100. I stammered my address to the operator, trying to explain about Rohan, about the skin. The person on the line sounded skeptical, but they promised to send the police. Then the pounding started. Bang. Not on my door, on the shared wall. Bang. Bang. It was so hard that my only framed photo, a picture of me with my parents at the gateway of India, fell off the wall and shattered. Priya, Rohan's voice came muffled through the plaster, wet and terrifyingly intimate. Open up. Don't ruin this. I've almost got all the old man's savings. I just need one more signature. Bang. You know, an old man's skin is very thin, he whispered, his voice sounding like it was right next to my ear. It tears. So is silent. I had to use a lot of ... preservatives. But yours is so healthy. I huddled in the farthest corner of my room, my hand clamped over my mouth to stifle my sobs, tears streaming down my face. Then, I heard the faint wail of sirens in the distance. The pounding stopped. I heard the door too, to be slammed shut. Then, silence. Police arrived 10 minutes later. They broke down his door. I watched from a safe distance. Rohan was gone. He must have climbed out the kitchen window and down the drain pipe. The apartment reeked of chemicals and death. And in the armchair lay the skin suit of Mr. Gosh, collapsed and shriveled, its face as hollow as a Halloween mask. I saw a young officer, wearing gloves, poke at it before turning away and They never caught Rohan. It turned out Mr. Gosh didn't have a grandson. Rohan was just a con man who saw an opportunity. But he wasn't just a con man. He was a monster. I moved out the very next day. I only took my wallet and my passport. I slept on a colleague's floor for 3 weeks before I found a room in Thane, as far away from that place as I could get. Quit my job. I couldn't stand the silence between calls anymore. The silence felt like apartment to be. Sometimes, at night, when I'm alone in my new room, I still hear it, that high-pitched, thin whine, like a drill. Sometimes, I swear I can smell that sweet, chemical odor. I know it's just my imagination, but I always check my locks. 3 times, and I never, ever talk to my neighbors again. Thank you for listening to my story. If you found this unsettling, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the dark side. Stay safe out there.